Hello everyone, and welcome to the first behind the scenes for the Fallen Circus. At the time of posting this video, the pilot and DLC of the Fallen Circus will both be released. However, this is far from the end of the series. We've grown off fond of these characters, and from what we can tell, others seem to be enjoying them as well. So to start things off, let's delve into some of the inspiration for the Fallen Circus. Some of you may already know this, but we had an AU for Gartner Bandman called the Fallen Gods AU. This was a story rewritten to where the creators of the Garten were part of a cult, with the leaders seeing themselves as gods. We had initially planned on taking this AU and rewriting it as our own original story, but that was not very long-lived, and we didn't get any further than the sketch you see right here. After that, we had the idea of a game where we took the three Banban OCs we created and turned them into their own separate identities for an original story. This concept then turned into the idea of making a fake game. After all, that would be far easier, while also challenging our skill set. From there, things slowly developed, picking inspiration from a handful of different concepts and medias until we settled on the Fallen Circus. Some of the other media that inspired us to make this project include The Walton Files, Steven Universe, Undertale, Deltarune, and many more. Now, onto concept art. Originally the pilot was going to be Felix, Ponra, Bunny, and Ringleader. However, further into working on the project we got, the more ideas we had. We came up with the idea of a credit sequence which would show more characters, hinting at the project's future plans. And so, we began working on more concept art. Brie was the first of the credits designs that we made. She may be our favourite design of the entire cast. And since making her, we have come up with a lot more plans for this series. Next up was Millie. Her colour palette went through many changes. Originally, she was going to have a different colour palette, but later decided to change that. We even briefly considered making their clown costume pink, but considering he's gender fluid, we thought it would be perceived as too feminine, as well as it not fully working with the colour palette we had decided for their body. Nolan was next up. His design went through many stages. Initially, he had several entirely different designs for making him various different animals. For him, we considered a moth and a crocodile, and unfortunately the concept art for both designs have been lost. When we settled on the idea of making him a gorilla, his design was the one we struggled with the most. He went through many changes until eventually settled on the design you see at the very end of the pilot. Deirdre was a challenge as well. The design was one that we hadn't fully thought through when making their initial design you see on the dark side of the circus. Deirdre is an interesting character, and one we enjoyed thinking more about when deciding this project was something we wanted to continue. We initially worried that the design looked too mouse-like, so after a lot of playing around, we settled on a design that we grew to love. The character that you play as has been given multiple different names and titles, some calling them the Goat or Goat, with someone close to us referring to them as Pilgor. The player is meant to be a blank slate, a character that people can project onto to insert themselves into the Fallen Circus universe. We initially left their design ambiguous, as to make their role up to viewer interpretation. The design was another tricky one for this exact reason, but in the end, I think we were rather fond of their look. Initially, the player was going to have a different design. We wanted their look to resemble the Sona of our good friend Fuchsia, who voices the person playing the game in the pilot and DLC. However, after thinking into it more, we grew concerns regarding possible self-shippers and shipping in general. All of the characters in the circus are adults, and Fuchsia is a minor, so we changed the player's design, making them a goat to resemble the goat part of our username, Cats and Goats. To still have a nod to Fuchsia doing his voice acting for us, we decided to add a small plush resembling his Sona in Bunny's room. Now, what's next for the Fallen Circus? Well, the next thing we have planned is shorts. Almost like a mixture of comics and tweening. At first these shorts will be roughly a minute long, with music in the background. After a while we have plans to move to voice acted shorts. However, that most likely won't be for a while, but rest assured, this is far from the end of the Fallen Circus. We still have many plans for this series, and hope you all enjoy what's to come. Originally, the Fallen Circus was going to have a much different tone to the story, falling more under the Mascot horror troupe. However, we decided to change this as we worked more on the script, eventually changing things to seem dark, while actually being rather pleasant. Now we've come to the end of the video, and it's time for an announcement. A short while ago we found out about a website that allows you to make a custom store, and so we want to announce to you all the Fallen Circus Trinket Store on ACG Goods. This store is something we wanted to make so that when we move to voice acted shorts we can begin paying voice actors for their work in helping us with this project. Most, if not all, the funds earned from this store will go directly into funding that. Any and all purchases will be greatly appreciated, especially as it will mean we can move to voice acted shorts sooner. That being said, thank you all for watching. We look forward to seeing you all again soon for the first Fallen Circus short.